In this video, we will talk about the so-called Bausparvertrag. And I will explain this Bausparvertrag to you now because many banks try to sell you a Bausparvertrag. And in my opinion, it doesn't make sense in most of the scenarios. So let me explain so you avoid this mistake. In a Bausparvertrag, you have two, let's say, steps or two phases. You have the so-called Ansparphase, so the savings phase, and you have the mortgage, the loan phase. Okay, let's say you go for a Bausparvertrag of 200,000. First of all, the question, can you buy with 200,000 your dream home? Yeah, probably not. But let's say 200,000, so your loan at least partially is covered. Okay, now you save typically 40 to 50% out of your own pocket. So you save 40-50% here. And you save these 40 to 50% with typically something around 1% interest rate. If we now consider costs, they are typically higher than 1%, and especially if I consider inflation, then it's typically higher. So what we know, we will have less money in the account when we have reached, let's say, 100,000 euros. Either you contributed more than 100,000 euros yourself, or just because of inflation, you have less purchase power. So in the end, you lost money. Okay? But the reason for a Bausparvertrag is that you can guarantee yourself a loan with a certain percentage. So let's say you guarantee yourself a loan of the remaining 100,000 because you save 100 here yourself to get 100 with a lower interest rate, let's say 2%. Just to have an example. Okay? But the problem is, it took you a while to save 100,000 euros yourself without having interest as a supporter. So how long do you actually need to save 100,000 euros yourself? Well, even if you have 1,000 euros contribution, you might need roughly 10 years just to save 100,000 euros yourself. Okay, and this is just 1,000 euros for the Bausparvertrag. So now you have to wait 10 years to reach that point to get another 100,000 euros from the bank. Well, between us, if you go to a bank, even right now, where we have 4% interest, and you tell the bank, I'm giving you 50% equity, most of the banks would give you 2.5, 3% anyway, because where is their risk? Why are they offering this to you? Because they can't lose. Let's say you're buying an apartment for, let's say you buy an apartment for 200,000, as an example. You give 100,000 euros yourself, which is in the Bausparvertrag, and you get a loan for 100,000 euros, okay, to finance this one here. Well, in the end, if you can't repay the loan, what will happen? The bank is just taking the apartment, which has a value of 200,000 euros. They made 100,000 euros without doing anything themselves. Of course, they don't have any risk. Because the worst thing that can happen is that they just take your apartment and they sell it for 200. Even if they just sell it for 180, for whatever reason, well, they still win. And this applies to every bank. Okay? Another thing. Well, if you go for a Bausparvertrag, you are gambling against the bank. Because you say the interest rate is going higher in the future, and the bank says, yeah, all good, we don't have any worries here. Do you think you will win the bet against a bank? I'm not quite sure. But what's the solution? How should you do it? You still have two phases. Let's say we're talking about home ownership. So you would like to buy something for 500,000. And if you would like to buy something for 500,000, then it makes sense if we're talking about home ownership, depends on the interest rate at that point, 10 to 20%. You should save yourself, okay? So something between 50 to 100,000 euros. At least to get the best mortgage conditions. It's also possible if you have a lower amount. So now, what you do is you save this money with 6 to 9%. You just invest that money. So you are first significantly faster, and second, if we look at the same duration, you have a significantly more amount of money, so you need a lower loan here anyway. So even if we pay higher interest, even if we would pay higher interest, but on a significantly lower loan, it's probably still the same calculation without paying all the costs and wasting so much time. On top of that, in the Bausparvertrag, you typically start the contract with 1% costs for the bank. So you start your savings plan with minus 2,000 euros. Okay? Now the better solution, you invest this money, you save 50 to 100,000 euros yourself, then you go to the bank, you finance the property, and that's it. You're faster. Because if you wait too long, this is what will happen. Let's say because you had the Bausparvertrag and because it took you a while to actually get to 100,000 euros savings yourself, okay? Because you also have to do other things. You should also invest some money, you should save money for your retirement, and home ownership is not the end goal which makes you wealthy and financially free, okay? So you wanted to save 100,000 euros and it took you time. So you are now 42, where you finally reached 100,000 euros. Now, a typical mortgage time is 27 years, or 25 to 27 years, okay? So let's consider 27 years. At that point, you are 69 when the mortgage is finished. Well, probably you want to retire earlier. First thing. Second, which is in my opinion a bigger problem, if the bank says or sees the mortgage is finished at 69, they would like to see how much money you will have in your retirement. And then you say, yeah, I have some private pension and that's it, but it will be significantly less than in my current situation. So what do? Either they increase the interest because they say higher risk now for us, especially in the end. Or what they do is they increase the amortization rate significantly. So you have to finish the loan significantly faster, which ends up in the end that you have more or less the same contribution in comparison to just taking a loan earlier, finishing a loan before retirement anyway, and having no issues with any bank. Okay? And that's the reason why I'm saying it typically never makes sense to take a Bausparvertrag to save money to buy property. What makes sense, and this is another solution, what makes sense, let's say you have a loan of 500,000 and you finance this loan with a normal, or this amount with a normal loan over 10 years. Okay? And after 10 years, you now have 350,000 euros mortgage left, because especially in the beginning, you typically pay the interest mostly. Okay? So after 10 years, you have 350,000 mortgage left. And then you say, okay, I have a lower interest rate here. I have in the future, let's say 2% here. And 2% is pretty cheap, but I just have it for 10 years. What happens after 10 years? If you have a low interest rate in the market and you would like to secure a low interest rate on the market, then what you can do, you can also go for a Bausparvertrag. You also save over 10 years for this Bausparvertrag. 50%, for example, of this remaining amount. And then you take the Bausparvertrag loan here for the remaining, let's say, 15 years. And you also have 2% guaranteed here. Is a more expensive solution in comparison to just having the 10 years here, but this gives you security. But this is something you only do if you would like to secure a low interest rate. And then it might make sense just to have peace of mind, especially if we're talking about a higher loan. But currently, we don't have a low interest rate here that you could secure. You're not saving with a good interest rate to actually be able to buy real estate as soon as possible. Because what's the benefit? Let's say you buy real estate with 42, your children are already 10, so in the next 10 years, they leave the house anyway, and then you're at 52, 55, you don't need the big house anymore. Yeah, but you still have high mortgage payments because you were not able to buy the house earlier. Okay? On top of that, the interest rate might be reduced in the future. It's pretty likely that interest rates are going to be reduced. And most of the experts say, yeah, interest rate probably in the next, difficult to give a prediction, but let's say next 12, 24, 36 months, interest rate will be reduced. Now you secure a loan or a loan interest rate with the Bausparvertrag at the more or less peak level in Germany. Well, where is the benefit if you could just wait 2 to 3 years? You don't have all these costs. You can invest the money, you can use the time, and when the interest rate is dropping again, you can buy your house. Okay? This makes significantly more sense than just going for a Bausparvertrag because any advisor told you, yeah, you have more security. Okay? So if you are interested in knowing how you can save money as best as possible for your real estate purchase, feel free to register for a free initial consultation and we will see what's the best solution for you in your case. Talk to you soon.